So, when you decide you really want to become a good communicator, not just a speaker of the language, but a communicator, because there's millions of speakers of the English language in today's time, and you might be aware that there are more non-native speakers of this language than native speakers. But I can say for sure, not all of those millions of people are happy with the level of English that they have attained so far in life. I've met some of them, obviously, like a handful of people. And everybody constantly is just trying to progress, perfect, correct, better up their level. And so are we actually. We're all in the same thing when it comes to communication. Less is not more. More is more. The more you do, the more you work toward the goal, the quicker, the easier, the faster you get to the goal. And I'm not even talking about any one shot, one time small goals, right? I'm not talking about taking the IELTS or doing the TOEFL test. Those goals are definitely smaller compared to this broader idea of becoming a good speaker, a good conversationalist, and a good public speaker, a good presenter. So all of these things, when you have these things in mind, and when you decide my goal is to become a master communicator, and I'm going to do whatever it takes. Actually, let me just tell you one thing, not to deter you or anything, but just to shake hands with reality a little bit. This is a big goal that you're up against. Like I said, taking the IELTS or any other test or doing any interviews, those things are one-off, one-shot, short-term goals. But when you think that you have to become a powerful, confident, non-hesitant speaker of the English language, it is then that you have to think about the bigger picture. And the bigger picture here is that you cannot confine your study time to any one point of the day. Yeah, I'm going to study for this hour, and for the rest of the day, I'm going to forget about this shit. Doesn't work like that. I know many people, they're so busy in their lives doing other stuff that studying English, listening to stuff, writing anything, or reading books becomes a big challenge. And it might feel like that. You're actually right in feeling that it becomes a challenge when you have to juggle a lot of things at the same time. But I want you to think of the same situation in this way. Instead of carrying this attitude of, I'm going to do it at this point of time in the day, why don't you think like this? Your attitude should be, I'm going to do it at each moment of my life whenever it's possible without ever draining myself out, without exhausting myself. It is actually not more energy consuming or time taking to do something the whole day, to always have it in the back of your mind, than to do something at one particular point for an hour or two. Having a routine is super important. But what I'm trying to get to here is that if your goal is not to be an ordinary speaker of the English language, you're going to have to do something extra. And let me tell you, you'll find great pleasure and enjoyment in this process. So in my personal journey, I've been doing the same thing for more than 10 years, been teaching for more than 4 years. And I take that time to sit myself sometimes and to have the self-talk, to introspect a little bit, because I like to analyze things to see what's going right, what's going wrong, yeah? And I've been thinking about it a lot lately because I get this question all the time, yeah? People would ask me, what have you done to get to this level? Like, what would you say has helped you the most? Is it reading, writing, listening, speaking? Which one of the four? And usually, straight answer, it is listening, because I spend a lot of time listening, The most amount of practice that I've gotten is through listening, actually, not through practice, because at this point, I get a lot of practice. I've gotten a lot of practice earlier as well, but then there was a gap. And also, I didn't used to read as much back in the day. So I'd say most of the credit does go to listening. But you know what? There's this perfect analogy. If somebody asks you the question, what is the biggest organ in the human body? How would you respond? You'd say something like the stomach, or maybe the liver, or maybe the lungs. But you know what? Some people would say skin, because it is all over your body. It covers your entire body. That is also an answer. It sounds pretty valid to me. And that is my answer in this case. Straight answer, yes, listening. But I would say I am constantly thinking about the thing. I consume all of my media in English. I don't remember the last time I sat down with my family to watch a Hindi reality TV show on the TV. Not because I am restricting myself or I'm avoiding that, but because I think reality TV is crap. You know what I'm saying? And that indeed helps me. I consume all of my education in English, conversations mostly in English, and all of these things only add to the benefit. I did not create this environment for myself, but I'm just telling you how my environment functions. But you know what? Something else that you can directly adopt from my lifestyle is listening in one particular way. I've had the same speakers that I've been listening to for the last 10 freaking years. Can you imagine? 10 freaking years, and I'm not tired of listening to them today. I'm not. It is not about the variety. Maybe that could be the secondary point. The primary point is to get rid of that hesitation, to become confident. And if becoming confident involves becoming like somebody, you shouldn't shy away from that. Had so many speakers that I've been listening to, so many, and I'm gonna name quite a few on this video actually. Hang in there. Those speakers have taught me how to speak English in an unrestricted manner, without that hesitation, without the nervousness, without that palpitation in your heart. And I used to feel all of those as well. I wasn't comfortable speaking English when I was in school. Yes, I was able to, act it out. Sometimes I would pretend I was confident and it worked for me, but I didn't like it. I didn't like it. What I was showing outside was not how I was feeling inside, and I wanted to change it. Listening definitely has helped me, because as human beings, we are just amazing. We are ridiculously great at adapting, becoming like other people, imbibing. And so when people say you have to have a good environment where you talk to people, advanced speakers, native speakers if possible. In any other scenario as well, we say like company matters, doesn't it? Company does matter. And I've had the company of some of the greatest speakers, the most intellectual people that are available on YouTube. That was my environment. Don't shy away from making YouTube your environment. If you like someone's listening, to put it very simply, bluntly, you like someone's listening, listen to them as much as possible. You'd like to become like someone, try to spend time listening or watching them as much as possible. That is definitely going to help you. And that is the reason in this 12 years, 10 years, 12 years time, I've never had to try shadowing. And I talked about it several times. You know what I'm saying? My words. I've never tried shadowing. Maybe for specific sounds or in specific situations, but that is not how I learned English. That is the God's honest truth. And I'm going to be very blunt with you right now, because some people might not be. It is all in copying styles. You have to become like someone. You have to have that person who you admire for their speaking style and stick with them, because ultimately you're going to become a version of yourself. But what you learn from them more passively than actively is going to improve your level. We all have conversations. Many people do speeches, but some people stand out. Why do those people stand out? I wouldn't say that they are the chosen ones, as we sometimes tend to believe. They're not the chosen ones. You study their life, they're not the chosen ones. But those people are great. They are the standout speakers, performers. And yes, we should definitely follow in their footsteps and try to, be inspired. If copy is a word that's not sitting well with you, but I'd say, like I said, I'm going to be really brazen. We should try and copy their style. But then again, not so actively. Learning could be active. Copying or imbibing someone's style cannot be active. You know what I'm saying? That would seem like aping. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to ape anybody, but we want to be in the company of good speakers, whatever speaker you like. Try listening to them every single day. Watch them closely. Passive listening is amazing because you can pair things up, yeah, habit stacking. But sometimes have that video running before you and focus on their facial expressions, even those micro expressions, yeah, the hand gestures, the movements, the accent. You will get the accent. And I recommend watching reality shows for the improvement of the accent to sound better. We are all talking about the same thing. It is the same thing. It is the same goal where I'm trying to lead you to. Some of my favorite speakers, like I said, I've been listening to them for like 10 plus years, I've grown up listening to them. Would be number one, would be, I've talked about Joe Rogan quite a few times, so I'm skipping that. I don't even know if he'd be number one or like number two because JB Peterson is ranked very highly for me. I've been listening to this person. He's an intellect, he's a professor for 10 years. JB Peterson has a fund of knowledge that would never dry up. It seems like that. He is way too knowledgeable, way too knowledgeable. He has his own style of speaking. He's an American, obviously. He's a professor. He has his own style of speaking. He talks about Nietzsche. Obviously, he's inspired me to read some books by Nietzsche. He always says, like, Nietzsche warned about this. Sorry, yes, Nietzsche did warn about this. I love his style. One thing that's different between JB and me is that he speaks a little slow. He lets people soak up the information and then go on to the next point. So that's something different because I have a long list of people that I listen to. Definitely JB on top. I also love listening to Elon Musk sometimes. He also speaks slow, but I like his style. He has a very analytical mind, something that goes without saying, doesn't it? And so whenever he speaks, I see that he waits until he has the right words in mind, the right words in his mouth. And the same goes for Magnus Carlsen. He is not a native speaker, just to tell you that much. He is also a very analytical speaker. You'd see that these people, when they speak, it has a lot of substance. They're not talking just aimlessly. Because you know what? There's a lot of people who do not know what the aim or the purpose of their talk is. And they feel lost. And the process frustrates them more than anybody else. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about Magnus Carlsen, Elon Musk. These are very purposeful speakers. I wouldn't say they would make the best speech, but as conversationalists, as the designer of their own speech, they're amazing. You can learn a lot from them. I really, really like them. I also do love watching reality shows, something that I've talked about in the past. One of my favorite reality stars is this woman, Zeta Morrison, I guess. I've been listening to some of her podcasts. She's not very regular on YouTube. She's not great at making YouTube videos, I guess. But I like her style. And you know what? It has to be a culmination on all of these styles. If you start spending time with your favorite speaker, whoever it is, just decide who your favorite speaker is, stick with them. Yes, it is about expanding your resources reasonably, but if you stick to that one person who you think is above all for you, even that is going to solve the problem for you. Take you to the other side, where fluency comes with comfort. Do you know what I mean? I've done that. And if you listen to the people that I mentioned here, you'd actually see that my speaking has a big influence. I do tend to speak like them. At times you'd notice that. And I have no shame in fessing up, in admitting that it is the case. No speculating. Some people speculate, are you trying to sound like JB Peterson? I've had these comments. I'm not trying to sound like it, but it kind of feels like he's part of me. You know what I'm saying? What do we do about it? And I like it. I wanted this to happen, but I haven't forced it through shadowing. I haven't forced it. I've let it happen every single day. Consistency matters. So this is the summary of the video. When you want to become an excellent communicator, don't think that it is a small goal. You're up against a big task. But this big task can be enjoyable and super achievable. There's many people who speak in the English language, but they're not satisfied with their level. Don't be one of them. One of the things that I have done throughout my journey is listening, and listening a lot. But I'm constantly active. Anytime I come across a word, a pronunciation, I try to check the meaning. I've also met some people who are like intermediate level speakers or readers who skip on some words. I've seen people using some words like deliberately, pioneer, very loosely, without really understanding the meaning. Yes, they understand the meaning to an extent, but their understanding is very context dependent. Don't be that. If you're already an intermediate level speaker, you should know these intermediate level words really well. And that would give you the confidence. Otherwise, you wouldn't know exactly in what ways you can use the word. So be active at all times. This is an ongoing process. This is not a short term, one shot, one off task like taking the IELTS. You know what I'm saying? And the final point, the most important of all, listen to any one speaker, make them your North Star, and give them time. Make them your company as much as possible. Passive listening, just plugging your ears and listening to a podcast or a conversation while driving or walking your dog, but also active listening. Watch their facial expressions. Watch how they smile. Watch how they drop their tone and pick it up at times. Also, the mouth movements, very, very important. You have to do it. Do you know what I mean? You have to. And also, I was forgetting this. Barack Obama is a great speaker. I've been listening to some of his speeches for just the last 3 or 4 years, and I'm a fan. He is a very confident speaker. You can go listen to some of his speeches. He is so good with his speech. The vice presidents of the United States, JD is an excellent speaker, excellent debater. This video, I recommend most of my students to watch this vice presidential debate that made a name for JD. JD made a name from this debate, and they won the elections, didn't they? You know what I'm saying? Focus on JD's conversation style in this video. He's an amazing speaker. There's a bunch of options. If you want, I can list them down, and I'll also try to list down the links of some specific videos that come to mind when I say J.B. Peterson, when I say Magnus Carlsen, when I say Elon Musk, when I say Barack Obama, when I say the vice presidents of the United States, J.D. Vance. I'll try to link it down for you. But you know what? You're going to have to take the step. You're going to have to take the action. You'll see the results. That is guaranteed. I'll see you in the next one.